Grand opening, grand closing. Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. It's your only friend these YouTube streets, Puerto77. And we're going to touch on a little bit of like this. So what you're seeing right here is Ran Outdoor, the man with a million gamer score, and Jez Corden on a recent Xbox 2 podcast. Now, I caught a glimpse of this from a Twitter snippet, topic, and stuff like that. But instead of me, I don't like to use the Twitter, right? Because sometimes a Twitter user may misrepresent something or say something, whatever. I said, you know what? I'm going to the source and I'm going to look at the whole segment. Now, this is dealing with the poor Xbox sales in Europe, the negative 52% drop, and that was the discussion, right? So I will say this whole segment was actually really, really good. They have chapters in it, so I invite you to listen to them. But they did a phenomenal job. I know some people will take that snippet and try to say they're fanboying, whatever. But overall, they did, honestly, a fantastic job. They mentioned and talked about, potential things on why Xbox is not, doing what does pretty much pathetically in Europe. And they mentioned some great points. Obviously, they did talk about games. It's just not, Xbox is not just releasing the hits that is necessary, right? So I think that's universal, and I think we can all agree on that. But they also touched on that in many countries, Microsoft does not put the effort to localize the game in the country region's language. You're pretty much stuck with English or French or Spanish or whatever, while the PlayStation version of those games are localized to that region's language. And I didn't know that. I didn't really know it was that bad. I didn't realize, gamers in different countries who play on Xbox, they're forced to play with the English voiceover or any other language other than their own. While if you get a PlayStation, it's in your own native language. That's pretty huge, and that's a pretty big, I'll be honest, that's pretty lazy in my opinion. I have no idea why a company that rich don't spend the effort to localize the language. It's especially when the PlayStation version has it. I don't understand why the Xbox version don't have the same localization. I don't know. It's pretty weird and stuff like that. But overall, they made great points. So why am I making this video? You're thinking, Porter, you gotta dunk on them. Like, no. This is not really a dunking video. Not here to dunk on them. I'm gonna use a snippet of what they're saying as a segue to a bigger conversation, because I think it's time we have this conversation and we illustrate it. I think it's time to finally have the sit down, have the conversation about console sales matters, doesn't matter, Microsoft's vision of how to make money versus Sony. It's time to just open the door. So that's why I'm using this. I'm using this as a segue for this, all right? So let's go. Let's start it. I'm gonna mute and let's kick it.
Yeah, so while the 52% down is not a position you want to be in, it's also not the end of the world. If it was 52% down in the US, right? Like imagine if this was like Xbox is down 52% in the US, then you'd be like, because that's Xbox's market, right? If you were like 52% down in their number one market, they'd be like, oh shit. But like it's Europe, and I don't think anybody.
So while I do understand, Rand's point, Xbox is still down in the American market. We just don't know the percentage drop. But make no mistake, it is down. And what I mean by down is it is selling behind the Xbox One. And we all know Xbox One sales generally wasn't that good. Well, the Xbox Series platforms is not even keeping up pace to what the Xbox One did. So there is an overall regress, console sales being down. It's there. And for a while, at least, and I think many of us, I know I said it, the first 2 years, it seemed like Xbox was keeping neck and neck. But at the reality, and I think people are realizing that, the only reason why it was keeping up neck and neck was because the manufacturing and the silicon was not available to produce enough PS5s. So that way, PS5 would just blow out Xbox out the gate. PlayStation 5 would have blew out Xbox out the gate. It was just being held back by how many consoles it can actually sell. You can't sell something that you can't produce, right? So that was the true limiting factor. And I think if there was no COVID scenario and consoles were able to be produced at max capacity right from the start, we would have saw right from the beginning PS5 blowing past by Xbox Series X, but we didn't see that, and people use that scenario to be like, well, you can't foresee factually that PS5 would have outsold it, so they used the ambiguity of what was happening as an advantage for Xbox, right? But the reality is Xbox is behind as compared to its previous endeavors. Xbox One is. So it is behind the United States, while PlayStation is ahead of the PS4, and PS4 sold phenomenally well. So there is some level of issues. We just can't discern to what length because we don't have the percentage, and MPD don't release those details. I'm sure those details are there, but you have to pay for the report, and nobody's going to pay like $25,000 for that. It's not that serious. But let's keep going.
Expects them to do well in Europe. I mean, there's reports that it's like PlayStation is now selling Xbox in France like 9-1 or whatever it is, or 7-1.
The thing is, right, a lot of the narratives and discussions is all through the lens of Sony's business model, which is selling consoles to get people into their closed ecosystem. But like, it's never in the context of Xbox's business model, which is selling games no matter where you are, pretty much, and selling services and stuff like that. They have different business models, and comparing them one to one is frankly unfair, but it's easier to make things more simplistic when you're putting in a headline and you're doing, you're putting things like that, and it's difficult to really touch on some of those nuances in a tweet or in a headline or whatever. But nobody wants to read the small print. Nobody wants to read past the headline and stuff like that.
So let's do it. Let's have the conversation. Let's read past the headlines. Let's look at the nuances. This is the segue I was talking about. Let's finally have the conversation that everybody's avoiding. And people are avoiding this conversation because, again, ultimately, and as we see it, the feeling of a brand that you like, you enjoy, you're all about, you watch the podcast, whatever, not doing good, people avoid that and stuff. And the number one thing when it comes to these console sales, they're using consoles don't matter. It's all about software sales. You got to understand Microsoft's doing these things. So let's talk about it. Now, to truly talk about it, right, I want to illustrate some things, right? And I want to illustrate this point. So let me set the stage, right? So Microsoft's strategy, right, so we understand is they want to sell more software, right? And they realize, we can all at least admit this, the console is not enough for them because they don't sell consoles to the height of PlayStation or to the height of Nintendo. They don't go anywhere near those numbers, right? And they realize they can't. So they come up with a different strategy of taking advantages of other devices across the board where they can play their games, right? So that's what we're going to focus on. Now, obviously, Microsoft is strategizing more beyond just the traditional gaming that we like. Obviously, with them acquiring ABK, K being King Games, they are now going to make mobile games. They already own mobile games, so obviously they're going to have that. But we're not going to focus on the mobile games. We're going to focus on the AAA, AA single games. We're going to focus on the Call of Duties, the Grand Theft Autos, the Halos, the God of Wars, the Horizon Zero Dawns. We're going to focus on what we play that can be played on console, can be played on PC, and through cloud. So that market, right? And with that, we got to look at it as 3 domains, right? So I set this up for you guys, right? I set this up for you guys so you can see the 3 domains that pretty much Microsoft is trying to venture into, right? To make more money and be more successful and deliver more software, okay? So let's look at the 3 domains. The first domain that you see here is console. That's the console domain. That's the domain that Xbox started in. That's the domain PlayStation's in. That's the domain Nintendo's in. That's the main domain. That is the first party domain right there, right? So what are the pros of being in that domain? Well, because you're selling hardware, you're selling a console, you're able to have first party sales. You sell the games that you make yourself. People buy a console to play your first party games. Nintendo you buy a Nintendo Switch, you're going to get your Mario, you're going to get your Zelda and stuff. You buy a PlayStation, you got your God of Wars, you got your Spider-Man, your Gran Turismo, and you buy your Xbox, you got your Halo, you got your, Gears of War, and Forza, right? So those are your first party sales. Your console delivers that. You also got third party sales, right? So you got third party publishers, right, and developers that want to take advantage of your hardware that you made, and they want to put games on your platform, right? But the advantage of that for the first party owners, you get a 30% cut. So somebody's doing the hard work, making a game, funding it, putting it together, and simply because they're going to put the game on your platform, that they have to work hard to make it work on your platform, they're paying you 30% of the cut. Simply because they want to take advantage. So you just sit back there, you give them the dev kit, whatever, maybe give them help to make sure the gun runs well, and yep, game selling. Yep. You get your money. Oh, wait. We're going to get that 30% because you put your game in our house and you can't put games for free in our house. That is the advantage of the third party sale. You also get subscriptions, right? Got Game Pass, PSN, online, whatever. You trying to get the most out of this console with online and service and stuff like that. So you make money off of subscriptions, right? And then finally, money transactions. Again, third party and first party. You got first party games that might have money transactions, coats and cat ears and all this weird stuff. But there's tons of third party games that do that, right? And once again, you get that 30% cut. Oh, they bought a pair of shoes? Yeah, you can have that 70, but we taking that 30, for a shoe you made. But since it was bought on our platform, we got it. So that's what console brings. But there is a con to this. It relies on your hardware sale. You can't sell first party, third party, get subscriptions and money transaction revenue if the household doesn't buy your console in the first place. And that's where Microsoft's like, this is why it's not working for us. We're not actually penetrating or getting into the homes the amount that we need to in order to sell software, get money transactions, get subscriptions. We have to find other places, and that is Microsoft's main thing, and that's why they so rapidly did all this. Channel, you can see they don't give a damn about the other domains. They like this console domain. They're getting everything they want out of this console domain, so they there. Sony is majority primarily in this domain. They're dipping a little bit in other domains, as you can see, but you can clearly tell, at least for this gen so far, they primarily have been backing the console domain, right? So what's the second domain? It's the PC domain, right? The PC gamer, right? That was one of the first places Microsoft went to instantly, right? Day one, support the PC gamers. Hey, we want to put our games everywhere, all that stuff. When everyone plays, we all win, stuff like that. So what's the advantage of the PC domain? Well, you get first party sales, right? Question is, your first party sale has to go through Steam because that's where most of the PC gamers play. But you now get to sell more first party games because now you have another audience on another device and they are willing to buy your games because you brought the games to them. You brought it to Steam and boom, you're getting more first party sales. Get more subscription. Game Pass, put it on PC. You don't need to own an Xbox. Put it on PC. Just another avenue for PC gamers to be like, you know what? I like subscription service. I like having access to tons of games for $10 a month or whatever. I'm good. So now you expand your ability to have more subscribers outside of your console and an audience that's already there. Now, here's the advantage of the PC audience. It's like almost all the time. And what I mean by that, PC audience don't have generations. They don't start over with zero like consoles do. Like you had your PS4 sold over 100 million, but as soon as the PS5 dropped, you have zero people, zero owners. And now you have to build up. And now you're at 40 something plus, soon to be 50, but you constantly have to start over. PC is continuous. Each individual will decide when to upgrade to get better performance, but they're still there even if they have inferior performance. You always have that consistent, huge fan base, right? And money transaction for first, really it's supposed to be first party, right? I left the third party there, but that's incorrect. So this is incorrect. It should have just been first party, right? You get money transaction for your first party. And I'm going to say why the third party shouldn't belong there. But it'll be money transaction for your first party. It's just another platform where you could collect money transactions. The con is third party sales. Not your console no more. So gamers have a choice of where they want to get their third party games. You see on Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, you buy third party, you are buying it from them. Period. And they're going to get the 30%. You buy a third-party game from PlayStation, Sony gets the 30%. You buy a third-party game from Nintendo, Nintendo gets the 30%. You buy a third-party game on Xbox, Microsoft gets the 30%. But where are you buying your third-party games on PC? All of you said the same answer. Steam. So who's getting the 30% off of third-party sales? Steam. Microsoft misses out on all those third-party sales. And because you miss out on third-party sales, guess what else you're missing out? Third-party MTX. Just how it is. That's the con behind that. You gave up control of everything the console domain has, right? So for the want of more first-party sales, for the want of more subscription, right, and for the want of more first-party MTX, you're going to lose out on third-party sales and microtransactions from the third party. That's just a trade-off. Okay? Now comes the third and final domain, the cloud domain. This is where now you're leveraging your cloud capabilities to reach out to more devices that technically aren't able to play these games, but because the cloud is the cloud architecture, the servers and consoles or whatever, the backend, those are the equipment that's running the game. But because it's cloud streaming, you are able to reach more devices than you ever did before. We're talking phones, tablets, TVs, tons, millions and 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 millions of devices out there that dwarf at a minimum console. They definitely dwarf how many consoles are out there, right? And rival PC, if anything, when you combine TVs, tablets, and phones. And we're talking phones of all brands. Apple, Samsung, Android is all over, right? That is the leveraging strength of the cloud. There is we'll talk about the strength of going with that. One is the subscription. That's the main thing. Get to push Game Pass. And you'll have your xCloud enabled games through your subscription through Game Pass. So once again, you find another domain to increase your subscription. First party Money TX. As long as it's in that and you have titles in that subscription, you can take advantage of money transactions. And phone gamers love money transaction. The cons are first party sales. If you're just focusing on pushing subscriptions to your cloud, what about a la carte direct game sales? That's probably not a thing, and that's probably something you're not really interested in. So you're not going to get a lot of first party sales. Third party sales. Another thing you're not going to do much of, right? Majority of the third party games are not in a subscription service. Majority of third party games you have to sell. And this type of strategy doesn't do much for that. Okay? And because of that, you're not going to get much third party money transactions. So there's cons to that, right? So now we see the three domains, right? We see the console domain, the PC domain, the cloud domain. This is the mistake the Xbox content creators and in having the serious conversation. This is the mistake. They think simply because Microsoft added the PC and cloud domain into their strategy, it is okay to falter or to do mediocre or generally not good in a console, because the PC and cloud will make up for that with more sales of first party subscription, whatever. And that's not how business works. All three domains have to be successful. All three domains, okay? All three domains. To pull back and make it look bigger, right? Microsoft's biggest moneymaker is Azure. It's huge, right? Xbox is a small pie. But just because Azure is huge doesn't mean it's okay for Xbox to flounder. That's the reason why they invest in ABK and Bethesda. They want that little small pie, even though it's nowhere near as big as Azure, but in of itself, it needs to be successful, right? These three domains are no different. Just because Microsoft expanded to PC and cloud to leverage those domains doesn't mean the console domain gets the flounder. And the console domain is huge, right? That console domain by itself is what's putting PlayStation on the map as the second largest publisher in the industry. Just that one domain. And it's the second largest publisher in the industry. Nintendo, I think, is like the fourth or fifth. So console market, that domain is huge. The question is the The reliance on hardware is what's killing Xbox. And what I'm by killing is preventing them from making mass or making a lot of money. Right? Not that the console's going to go away or the brand is dead, whatever. It's just that the console's not enough to truly take advantage of that domain. So the question is, how do you take advantage of the console domain? Well, look at the PC market. What did Microsoft do? What decision did they make to reach to the PC gamer? Obviously, they got Game Pass, that's one. But when it came to sales, to sell more software, what did Microsoft ultimately do? What they ultimately did was they gave up on their own Windows Store. And what I mean by gave up, they just said, you know what? We're not going to keep our games exclusive to the Windows Store. That's over with. PC gamers want Steam. If Steam is the way, the storefront that PC gamers want their games on because of everything Steam does for them, then we're going to put our games where the PC gamer is at. And the PC gamers is on Steam. Because they put their games on Steam, they are leveraging Steam sales for them to be successful. This is why I say that Microsoft will eventually go third party. Because if you want to leverage the console market, and if you want to increase revenue and make a lot more money in the console market, you have to go where the console market is at. You have to go where the majority of the gamers are in the console market. And the majority of the gamers in the console market are on Nintendo and they're on PlayStation. Okay, if it's all about selling more software, selling more games, Adam, trying to take advantage of every aspect of what gaming is for Xbox, then they have to go to every device that will be advantageous to them. Selling their first party games on Nintendo and PlayStation is advantageous, okay? Imagine if Call of Duty was not available on PlayStation this year. How far and how bad the sales would immediately drop. Okay? Think about it this way. How far did the sales of Starfield drop compared to previous Bethesda titles? We don't know how much Starfield sold, and they probably not, and they most definitely not going to release it. So you have to ask yourself, sure, it was number one MPD in September, and then it fizzled, and then it dropped completely, and it'll probably drop out real quick soon. But what are the numbers of, let's say, Fallout 4 versus Starfield, or Skyrim versus Starfield? When Skyrim was available on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, Fallout 4 is available PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Compare those two. How far of a drop is there? If Microsoft wants to take advantage of the console market, right, they're gonna have to put their games where the gamers are at, as they say in their moniker. When everyone plays, we all win. The reality is Microsoft is forcing Xbox to have the Microsoft mentality. Create the software and put it on as many pieces of hardware as possible, and there is no such thing as a competitor in the hardware business. This is why more and more Microsoft will go eventually third party. That doesn't mean they won't make another console or stop making console. Remember, they make the Surface tablet, yet all those productivity products and productivity software and apps and everything the Surface does is available to third-party competing tablets. They can do the same thing. Now, obviously, Microsoft has a little touch in aesthetic looks and all that to give it that Microsoft feel, but fundamentally, you can do everything a Surface tablet does on another competing product, and Microsoft doesn't care. They don't mind. If you don't want to buy a Surface tablet and you want this other product, they still win because you're buying their software, which is their number one priority goal. Microsoft is forcing Xbox to have that same mentality. Xbox will be a game publisher, and that's it. If you want to buy the Xbox, buy the Xbox. But make no mistake, they want more people to buy their software, and their Xbox is not doing the job. Majority of console gamers are not on Xbox. So, but Microsoft still wants to sell to those gamers. So how do you sell to a gamer that's not on Xbox? You put the game in the box that they are on. That's it. That's the easy answer. The problem is, right now, the Xbox fanboys or Xbox gamers, you don't like these words. The question is why? You guys say Microsoft is all about selling more software. So I am rationally explaining to you why they're going to put their games on other competing devices. Yet it bothers you. The only reason why it bothers you is because you like the console war. You like the battle. Don't come try to sucker me with this. Oh, when everyone plays, we all win. Nah, you don't believe in that. You don't believe in that at all. You want Microsoft to have at least some type of remnant of identity to itself. And seeing Xbox games on Nintendo and PlayStation will completely remove that individual identity that Xbox created. But I am telling you, Microsoft doesn't care about that identity. That identity doesn't lead to more money. They don't care about that. Xbox will embrace the overall overarching Microsoft mentality. Software everywhere. There's no such thing as a hardware competitor. Those languages does not exist in any other division for Xbox. But them, it's about the software. Who's making hardware? Can we put your software on your hardware? Yes, we're doing it. And end the story. That's the conversation that we finally can open up and have. That is the reality. If anyone is simply against this idea, it's just mostly because they still want that battle between Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. They want Microsoft to still carve out that first party identity. They don't want Microsoft to ultimately be EA, Ubisoft, where now you're just a publisher that makes games for everybody, but you're not really focusing on your own stuff. That is the only reason. But then that reason conflicts with Microsoft wants to put their games in everywhere. Can't have it both ways. You can't say Microsoft wants to put their games everywhere, but everywhere. No, it doesn't work that way, right? And when you also look about it, look at this. Look at Microsoft holistically, or Xbox holistically. Did you notice that the majority of their studios that are Xbox first party studios, and we're not talking about individual workers that work with other people. I'm talking the studios themselves. Don't you know majority of studios made games for PlayStation? A lot of games for PlayStation. There's only a few studios that have not made a game for PlayStation that Microsoft owns. There's only a few. The majority of developers that Microsoft owns have PlayStation experience. While the minority of developers that Microsoft owns, they're the small group that never made a PlayStation game. And I'm not talking about individual people that they hire and how they work. Let's say, for example, Coalition. I'm talking about the actual studio holistically. Like Coalition never made a PlayStation game, right? 343 never made a PlayStation game. Turn 10 never made a PlayStation game. Right? Playground never made a PlayStation game. Rare, I think, never made a PlayStation game, right? But after that, the majority have. The majority of developers have. They all made PlayStation games. So Microsoft going with this plan is really not a hard move to do for them, right? Sure, 343 Coalition, they'll have a hard time, but there's plenty of studios that are first party that will teach them, show them the way, and give them the tips and tricks and be like, hey, this is how you make games on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. We do this shit all the time. It's normal for us. I'm just saying. But anyway, you let me know what you think about this video. This is your only friend in these YouTube streets, PuertoRock77. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you do stick around, enjoy the content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, right? And every Tuesday, I want to tell you, we have a podcast. In fact, it's coming up tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 60 frames, no lag, every Tuesday, right? Hope you come through, enjoy the conversation with the chat, enjoy this video. Go see my other previous content, which is fresh off the print. You will love it. Hey, your only friend is YouTube Streets. One more I gotta say. You guys take care. I will see you tomorrow. And I know you're hitting that like button right now. Take care. Peace.
Grand opening, grand closing.